Oh, all right. How you doing, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming back on this Monday evening. It's a pretty nice day out. I was enjoying my car ride home with some beautiful clouds out there. It looked nice and sunny. I didn't get out much during the day because I was working, but really enjoyed my drive home today. Just taking in the sunshine and the clouds, and then of course some clouds got a little dark, and we had a little flash thunderstorm in my area anyway. But that too passed, and still was able to enjoy a little bit more sunlight before it's gotten too dark. Hope you've had a great Monday and a even wonderful um, weekend this past weekend, and that it's been safe and everything. So listen, this may end up being rebroadcasted simply because I know Facebook has been having issues today with their servers and things like that. I know I've been having problems getting on Facebook and um, checking different things. Usually I try to send out reminders about the broadcast and things like that, and was not able to do that. I do see that I am showing live on Facebook on my personal page. I'm not sure if it's live actually on the actual um, Keep It Real page. So may end up rebroadcasting this in another day or so, just so that you'll be able to catch what I know is going to be a great uh, conversation. Um, and I am really excited about the conversation I'm going to have tonight because I've invited two friends, two associates, but I really do consider them to be friends. I do wish we could spend more time together, but we'll talk about that as well. But know them from church. Became associated with them through our church's drama ministry, and I truly feel blessed to be associated with these two persons. And I'm going to read a quick bio on each of them, just so you'll get an understanding of who they are and what they do, so they won't feel quite as strange to you. Not that I'm saying that they're strange, but Um, the first person is James A. Brown, and he is a performer, technician, administrator, writer, mentor, and social activist since 1997. James has served as Cotton State University Performing Arts Specialist, coordinating shows and activities for the theater program and for other campus organizations in both the larger James Weldon Johnson Auditorium and the smaller Theater Lab. James has designed lighting, sound sets, or video for numerous productions, and I'm witness to that. He's done many, many production things for our plays and things like that, which are outstanding. He is a member for the Arena Players, the oldest African American theater company, and has also worked at other theaters. James is chairman of the Charm City Act So program of the Baltimore NAACP, a member of AFSCME Local 1356, and a member of Mount Pleasant Church Ministries Drama Ministry, and former secretary for the Black Theater Network, a national theater conference. He is also a board member of the Washington Hill Mutual Homes Cooperative and the secretary for the Baltimore City branch NAACP. Along with him, I'm also happy to bring, just one second here, his lovely wife, Sharon C. Brown, who is a native of the Columbia, South Carolina, and has called Baltimore home since 1993. Currently, the Performing Arts Department chair at Parkville High School in Baltimore County, she considers acting and performing on stage her fun time. Her most recent roles include Mary, Mother of Jesus in Mount Pleasant Church and Ministries, and The Fullness of Time, and Cynthia in Sweat at Spotlighters Theater, for which she received a Best Actress in a Non-Equity Show nomination from BroadwayWorld.com. She will be playing Beatrice in Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing at Spotlighters Theater, opening late January 2022. Wonderful. So I want to bring to you now Mr. James and his lovely wife, Sharon Brown. Thank you all.
Hey, Mark, how's it
Hi.
going?
Hey, so happy to see y'all.
Good to be here.
I had been thinking about, I knew I wanted to get you two on, and I was trying to think of a way I can finesse this. And recent headlines got me to thinking, um, this might be a good opportunity for me to get you two on because one, like I said earlier, I really do feel privileged and honored to be able to call you guys friends, and just to be associated with such talent. You guys are so talented. Um, I'll never forget one of my favorite memories with you two, of course, was at your wedding, and you two sang together. I was like just blown away because at that time I didn't know James could sing that well. Already knew Sharon could sing, but when you two sang together, I was like, wow, it just like blew me away. So just to be associated with such talent, God-given talent, is just a wonderful thing for me, and I appreciate how the Lord has put me in different circles. James has been a mentor for me, along with Dr. Mike. Mike is always usually the director and writer of our plays of recent years. But James has pulled me aside at times and taught me some things. Just me watching him with production and sets and all those things. I appreciate all the input you've given me as well.
You're welcome.
And
I enjoy working with you a lot.
I do. I truly enjoy it. And it was something else. Um, I didn't have any idea that I love drama so much. I mean, I used to love reading Shakespeare. I used to, like doing a play here and now, but to see things um, on the production side just kind of awakens something within me that I didn't even know was there. So having great people like you guys around, um, I think helped that out a lot.
Well, thank you. It's been our pleasure as well.
Yeah.
Good,
Definitely. Joel.
good. All right. Hey, Mom. Nice to see you on. I'm glad you're on because I know you would have been worried if you didn't see me on. So I'm happy to see that you won. Um, so listen, y'all. We're going to get into a conversation, and here's what kind of sparked this for me this week was the whole R. Kelly decision uh, with his trial, and I started thinking actually not just that, but Bill Cosby um, chimed in and felt like R. Kelly was railroaded because he was prosecuted by the same lawyer that he was prosecuted with. But I know I had uh, spoke to some other people before, and it's something that I still kind of struggle with. And I just wonder how you guys feel about it. And if you are able to join in, you can always join in by chat, by putting in a comment. I'll be able to see it, um, and we'll be happy to answer it. But let's start with Bill Cosby. Uh, so we all know Bill Cosby was convicted. He went to prison for a time. He was able to get out. Some people say for a loophole or because things weren't handled properly on legally, things like that. But even before he actually went to prison, I found it difficult to go back and watch the Cosby Show. And really, it wasn't literally until maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that I actually sat and watched some of the shows. And that's probably because I couldn't find anything else on. And still great shows, still great messages, still a great character, but I still struggle with that. I still struggle with that, and I guess I'll start with that aspect of it. Do you find it difficult, or is it easy for you to separate the performer, um, the role, and then the person? Are you able to separate those things? Do you see those as two distinct things? Do we feel like that maybe we should not support people in those roles, things like that? What are your feelings about it?
Oof. I think specifically with the Cosby Show, I think he based that character. He wanted it's based. I believe it's based upon him and his life, his children. I think at one point in an episode, in an interview, I heard that he wanted to show a successful Black family, and he wanted to have a certain number of kids to reflect the number of kids that he had. So I believe that the Cosby character, Dr. Huxtable, is an extension of Bill Cosby and his life. But there's enough, in my mind, there's enough to separate that character and those stories from the actor and what he's done that I can still watch the Cosby Show for the positive messages, for the positive memories that I have associated with watching the show?
Uh, like you, Mark, I haven't watched any episodes since. I mean, I've been busy, so I haven't been watching very many episodes of The Cosby Show uh, in quite a while, and in many years. I enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed his entire body of work. I've appreciated what he has also done in the community as as an educator, uh, supporting social activism for the African American community and many communities over the years. Um, his relationship with Sidney Poitier and uh, 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 Harry Belafonte.
Hmm. Hmm.
Growing up, they were such a tight knit group. Um, Over the years, I don't know if it is because of what we see in his lifestyle. There's been a little bit of a separation that you still have Sydney and Harry together, and Bill is, on the
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
looking in. Some people say that that's telling. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
we have to note that. In terms of their body of work, again, there have just been so many different performances, so many movies, so many other TV shows that they've participated in, and also in a way you do a disservice to the other creatives that were involved. Uh,
Okay.
the Felicia Rashad and the other young actors that were in the different shows, and even um, other Cosby shows that he's done, uh,
Right.
and the other movies. Again, how if you remember the, the first black hero that we saw in a movie, one of the first was a Meteor Man, and
Right.
Cosby had a small role in that. So, it's difficult to not watch everything in his body of work. But I can understand and respect anybody that chooses and wouldn't criticize them. I realize they say we're in a culture of canceling out people. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
I can understand that if people feel strongly that he's done a disservice to the community, that he's done a disservice to women, um, that they if they have a hard time enjoying his work because of that, I fully understand it. Uh,
Right.
I have not seen anything recently. It's more because I'm busy and there's a lot of content out there that I
Yeah.
do enjoy. Um, that I don't know if I'll say this: if something were to be on the TV one day when I had nothing else to do and it just popped up, I'll make that decision then. I haven't chosen to actually put anything of his on recently. So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of stuff out there and a lot
Yeah.
of young and older, but mainly young Black creatives out there that are putting out some tremendously good work,
Yeah.
who are also out there in their young activism phase, that deserve our support.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, well, I think, for me, and again, I just happened to watch because there wasn't much else on, and I think that's why it's easier for some um, to not be concerned about it or have an emphasis on it when it comes to him. And we're going to move on to some other people and other things, but I think for me, and maybe I'm finally over it, and maybe it's just my own fault. But I had a feeling of betrayal, because he was America's dad, you know, and he did so much. Like you said, you outlined a lot of different things, from being a stand-up comedian and so on. I used to love watching and listening to him do his early work and things like that. And I had a great admiration for what he did. And sometimes I wonder, maybe I had put him on a pedestal that he should not have been on, and maybe that's why it felt more like a betrayal than anything else. Not just me personally, but to our community, if you will. That it gave yet another reason where others can look and say, "Yeah, that look at what they did." You know what I mean? Look how they can't be trusted, and look at their behaviors and things like that. So for me, that's kind of how I think I was kind of feeling about it, and maybe now I'm just a little bit over it, because I was able to watch it and enjoy it. I mean, I watched 2 or 3 episodes that night, but that was like the first time in a very long time that I did it. Um, which kind of also brings me to my next thought, with the whole R. Kelly thing. And there certainly have been a lot of celebrities, not all of them black, but there's been a lot of celebrities over the years that have gotten in trouble, for one reason or another, whether it be tax evasion, whether it be, similar things like with rape and things like that, or even with our athletes, with wife beating and things like that. Um, do you think that we as a people are more forgiving? Because you mentioned that term canceling. Do you think we're more forgiving, or are we less forgiving, and depending on what we consider to be the crime?
I don't understand personally why R. Kelly keeps um like everybody seems to be okay with R. Kelly, what he has done, sorry, what he's been accused of doing. Um, I think there's similar to Cosby. There's so much more content out there, especially with music, that you don't have to keep landing on R. Kelly for anything.
Right.
Um, so the fact that we were talking about this probably 10 years ago. Um, we were talking about this after Aaliyah died. I mean, it just keeps coming back, and it's not that I don't like his music. I'm just not particularly fond of his music, and I really don't understand why it's okay for R. Kelly to have done what he's accused of doing, and people seem to be all right with it. Um, in terms of celebrities and things that they do, I guess there's a cynical side of me that believes that everybody has skeletons or dark
Mhm.
places that they don't want people to know about, and it's just really a matter of time before it comes to the surface. Everything in the dark will come to the light. So for Cosby, for um R. Kelly, for all these athletes, for all these people, Wesley Snipes and his taxes, it's just a matter of time to me. It's not that surprising. It's just
Yeah.
what is the vice is the question. What caused people to make that decision to do what they were doing that's now out?
Right. Right. And do you think? I mean, really, do you think it's would it even come out if they didn't have that celebrity? I mean, really, would we even care?
Well, I think it's magnified because they're a celebrity. It doesn't mean it wouldn't come out. I mean, we see every day on the news, like there's a gentleman here in Maryland that has been accused of sexually assaulting
Children.
children. And so he's not a celebrity. He's somebody that was going to work every day at a 9 to 5, and just he unfortunately is not somebody that was respecting the youth that were in his presence. And so uh, I think, as Sharon said, things are supposed to come into the light. It's God wants things to be revealed, and in his time, in due time, they're
Hmm.
going to be
Hmm.
revealed. Um, you know, I think that in this conversation, one of the things that I don't know if we're going to turn in that direction is forgiveness. I think what we first have to get is some level of understanding of people. Uh, but we're not Bill Cosby's best friend. We're not his son, his daughter, his wife.
Right.
We're not the people that are closest to R. Kelly that know what really is true and what isn't. So, for those of us that, you know, I don't want to say don't have a dog in the fight, don't, we're not, you know, we don't have to sleep with him. We don't have to, look at it. I don't know if he has children. I really see. I don't follow celebrities enough. I tell
Yeah,
Sharon,
I'm the same way.
I don't know
Yeah.
them well enough to know whether they like pink or they eat hamburgers or the names of their children or if their parents are still alive. I
Right.
just don't follow celebrities. They're just working people like me. They just
Right.
work in the arts and they have their names out there in front of everybody on a regular basis and they make a lot more money than I do.
Right.
And so
Right.
I don't, their personal lives are their personal lives. And when people choose to bring that information in front of everybody, uh, I'm going to react to it the same way I would react, like I said, this gentleman that's in the news now here in Maryland. Uh,
Right.
it's repulsive. It isn't. Um, it isn't something that I condone. Um, so but is it something where once I find it out, I want to cancel out that person and not have anything to do with them? I don't know them well enough. And again, like Sharon said, if their music is on the radio, am I going to turn it off? If I'm driving and I'm not focused on it, so be it. Uh, I just but it is important, like you said, that when you have individuals who are, I guess, to use the word role model, they have an effect on people's um, their own uh, moral. Uh, what do you want? Not moral code, but there's somebody that they believe that they should emulate some of their behaviors,
Right.
and then you find out that they have some immoral behaviors as well. Um,
Well, we're definitely none of us are like perfect, you know.
no,
Um,
not hardly.
and like you said, everybody has their thing that they carry, and we all deal with different things. Um, and as you was talking, I was thinking about a lot of different personalities and things like that. And you mentioned the word role model. I'm trying to think of his name because really I don't follow celebrity much either. I hear things now and then, but it's not like I'm picking up some tabloid or anything like that in the supermarket or watching entertainment news or anything like
Yeah,
that. Um, but I was watching a Kevin Hart thing, I think it was, where he does like interviews while I was working one day. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Y'all know the actor? He was in Drumline.
Nick
Uh,
Cannon.
Nick Cannon. And Nick Cannon said something. He said that kind of like blew me away. I thought was pretty decent and well thought out. Was that he does not want to be a role model because a role is just something you play. It's not who you are.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, a role is just what you play. And he wants to be real and be authentic. So when you think about that, and you've heard other athletes say the same thing, they don't want to be a role model, things like that. I'm not sure if it's for the same reason. I've heard other people say, like Charles Barkley say, he wants their parents to be role models and things like that. Those who that people can touch every day. Um, but when you think about, like, for instance, you talk about R. Kelly and the crimes that he's been convicted of, and you think about, driving a car and Michael Jackson comes on the radio. Um, Even though I may not turn off the radio right away, I still get that feeling of, even though he's gone, it's not like he's going to make money from me listening or not listening. His state may still, but um, I still had this feeling of, but I really do believe you did the things that you did. Now, again, I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows 100% what's happened in these little secret rooms and things like that. But because it's there, I think it has a lasting impression on people. And I guess my thought is, one, how do people outside of the arts look at that versus how the people on the inside of the arts look like it? And is there like uh, a community within the arts where things just aren't spoken about when it comes to certain things?
It could be. I don't think it's as defined as, the blue wall that you hear about with police officers, that, that they one of the issues we're having with policing is, we feel like they police themselves too much. And that is why we have gone through that's why it was necessary for Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement and things like that, because our uh, um, legal system, our policing systems were not protecting people, were not supporting people who had claims of violence um, and uh, there was just, people felt as though they didn't have the kind of support from the systems that we've put in place to support everybody equally. Um, but a thought that I had is with this, I guess, extending from the forgiveness aspect that I was brought up earlier, is, so how long do you, not necessarily cancel, but how long do you keep hold? I don't know. How long do you hold somebody responsible when they do something
Right.
wrong? I mean,
Right.
if someone goes to jail based on the systems that we have in place, and they serve their time,
Right.
at what point do we, if they've served their time, do we still, are we still supposed to look at them with the same negative filter?
Right. Right.
We still hold them accountable. Again, we don't always know all the details of a particular situation, and if they've gone through the legal system, do we still, you know, do we do?
Hold that against them.
At what point do we, like, for example, I'm not a huge fan of Roseanne Barr, but she's did some unkind things. She got kicked off of a TV show. Is she not supposed to have a career forever for that?
Kevin Spacey.
There are
Kevin Spacey.
numerous uh, reporters who have been on different, whether it was sports shows or other shows, where they've said and done something, and they lost their position. Is that supposed to last forever?
Well, I think, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we need to be able to offer grace to people. And that, yeah, we can't, because like you said earlier, everybody has a past. Everybody has done things that they probably regret at one time or another. I know I have things that I done in the past that I regret, and even some things I would hope would never come to the light. But if the Lord decides it needs to come to light, then I had to trust that He has a reason for letting those things happen, and maybe that's will help others in the process. But I agree with you. We even in the social aspect of like you said, if people go to jail, they do their time, they do their sentence, and we're still having this battle even now today where convicts can't, or former convicts can't vote and things like that. for me, in that aspect, it's like, okay, they did their time, they paid the price of their crime. We should now introduce them fully back into society. But at the same time, I feel that if people are not remorseful, if people have not said I was wrong, if people are not willing to, stand up and say what I did was wrong, I apologize for it, and not just the fake apology to get their name straight, but they really, you can tell that they really mean what they say. Yeah, by all means, I think we should extend forgiveness. I think we should extend grace and say, you know what, that was then. You paid for it. You stood up. You spoke about it. Let's move on. Let's not do it again. Now, if they're repeat offenders and things like that, that could be something different. But I agree. I think we have to, as a society, because like you said, this cancellation thing, and I think maybe that's where I'm struggling a little bit because at the one point it's like I don't want to support this, I don't want to support that, I don't agree with this, but at the same time, everybody makes mistakes, and how long am I supposed to hold it? You know what I mean? How long am I supposed to hold their mistake against them? Where I definitely wouldn't want people to hold my mistakes against me for something that I might have said 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I remember what was that last year or so when Kevin Hart, well, he was going to do the Emmys. Was it the no? It was going to be the Academy Awards. He said something when he was like 18 or 19 when he was doing stand up, and people were still trying to hold him to that. You know what I mean? But how you're thinking when you're 18 or 19 is a whole lot different when you're in your 30s and your 40s. You've learned a lot of different things in that time period.
You'd hope so. Yeah,
You
it's,
would
it's
hope.
I mean, there's really, I mean, as you were talking, I'm thinking of all these different celebrities that, but it's the culture around them, the people around them that protected them, that were protecting their name, protecting their career, that were trying to hush the accusers, and enabled this to go on as long as it did, as and spread as wide as it did. That's the part that I have issue with. um, the whole Me Too movement came about to give women a voice, to say these things happened to me in this situation because this person of power held their power over me, or held their influence over me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't really have a choice, or I wanted to be an actress, and this person held my career in their hands, and either I did this or I don't work. That kind of environment that's created, where people feel that their power is taken from them, and all those people around the celebrity or around that person of influence that protected them.
Yeah.
And it's important that that aspect of it is important because we there were stories way back in the day about what was going on with the Rat Pack, with Sinatra and um, Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin and all of these celebrities that were part of the Rat Pack. And I may not have all the names right that were part of that group.
You good so far?
Uh, but then just the same, those individuals had a reputation, and when you look back on it, the books that have been written, not all of it was positive, but
Yeah.
these were some of the most influential people in Hollywood in the day, and um, you know but I like what you were saying about these individuals. Once it was brought to the light, did they show any remorse? Did they show any regret? Did they ever apologize? uh, as we like sci-fi, and one of the backstories behind one of the recent Marvel miniseries, Falcon and Winter Soldier, was that the Winter Soldier, having done some dastardly things, in order to feel like he could move his life forward, he had to show honest, sincere remorse and regret, and even go to the people whom he offended or their families and show some level of responsibility.
Hmm.
That's important. I think that if individuals and celebrities want us to take them seriously, what are they doing to
Yeah.
show that they are not going to repeat this,
Right.
and also be supportive of those, not necessarily that they have to have claims against them, but claims against other people. Show some sensitivity when issues are brought up. uh, and sometimes, one of my issues with Bill Cosby was after he got out of jail, he should have I would have been, not necessarily okay. He couldn't stop talking about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
situation. He
Yeah.
could, he was shown, and maybe it was God that showed him some grace, but
Hmm.
he didn't show any appreciation for what he was shown.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
came out and he talked and he talked and he
And he's
talked
still talking.
and he's still talking. And I just said, you know, this is not a person that is shown any sensitivity at all to what these women have been feeling. And
Right.
that I it's very, so that makes it hard for me, um, to choose to support anything that he does in the
Right.
future.
Right.
He's the kind of person. If you remember, in the early days of his accusations, he was still going out and performing, and people were still buying tickets and going to
Yeah.
see shows.
Yeah.
I could never couldn't do that then, and now because of how he's reacted, I couldn't do
Yeah.
that. And again, I won't condemn anybody that does, but I'm gonna look at them, kind of
Side-eyed, and
side
it's
eyed, like,
Hmm.
distasteful.
okay,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
are you doing this? Look at this man's
It's like OJ. It's like OJ couldn't shut up,
showing
and,
some
and he
measure of
pops up
grace.
every now and then.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
know. Um, all right. I do have one comment here from Letitia. Hey, Letitia. It says, I think people deserve true forgiveness. They must be accountable when wrong is done, but it comes with a cost. Their life will change and may be a different path because of it. God had mercy on Adam and Eve, but they never lived in the garden again.
Yeah, and I was thinking that it's there are legal consequences to some of their actions if, someone, and I'm thinking it from this perspective, especially when you think of R. Kelly and how some of the accusations is that he did things to underaged girls, and clearly, if he were to admit what he did to adult females, he knows that there are greater consequences if he
Hmm.
were to ever admit to doing something to an underage child. And it could even be personal because, you know, it, I could imagine some father or brother or uncle finding out that you did this to their girl, this young person in their life, and she couldn't speak about it because it was R. Kelly. The
Right. Right.
father or the uncle, whomever, loved him. And they couldn't they you know they'd walk in the room and see this story on the news, and they want to say, but he did this to me, but they can't because the father, uncle, brother, is in love with the celebrity. So they immediately sit there and shut up.
Wow.
Imagine if that child was listened to and he were to say, well, I really did do this to her, what kind of reaction they would have
Right.
to him, and wanting to then do him harm because it's like, you hurt my baby.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a shame how these type of crimes they affect so many more, and not just those immediate victims, but those that are around them as well. Um, it's really sad, and I know they often, like in the case of R. Kelly, it's been said that he was abused as a child, and that's probably why he does what he does, and things like that. And I understand, that people have trauma, and for whatever reason, they may think that how they were treated, that that's the norm. Therefore, that's how they should do things as well. I don't know. I'm not a trained psychologist in that area, but for me, there's just some things. If you have any good conscience whatsoever, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. And if you're trying to hide it, you know what's wrong. Is my thought. If you try to hide it and deny it, you know it's wrong. So
And no means no. If
yeah.
somebody said no, if somebody said, I don't want to, if somebody said, I just want to go home, can we be friends? If somebody just didn't want to be in that situation and said, let me out of the room, and in any way, shape, or form, if either of these gentlemen went against the wishes of the person that was in front of them at that time, um, or as some of the accusations are that the women might have been drugged or
Hmm. Hmm.
physically disabled by some substance. If you caused anything to disable that person's will or to inhibit their will, then you were wrong.
And I agree with you, but unfortunately, we're finding that there are those who don't know that what they're asking or doing is wrong. They think it is the norm because that's how they were brought up from a small child on up. They were abused, and they think that this is what love is. Especially when you're young, and I think that maybe that's why children sometimes are the victims of such predators because children are learning and they don't know readily understand what love looks like. They only know what's being shown. You know what I mean? If you are shown this, but it's being tagged line with "I love you," they think, "Oh, this must be love." You know what I mean?
Or that it's an acceptable behavior, as Sharon said. You hear from your girlfriends, oh, go do this with so and so, it's harmless, it won't, it just do it, it you'll get a show out of the deal, or you'll advance
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
career. How many women are trying to be teachers or lawyers or doctors or stenographers? I mean, just jobs that are not in the limelight, not
Right.
celebrity positions, not in the arts and entertainment. People that just want a job, housekeepers, maids, uh, any kind of position out there, and there's somebody that is going to use their position and power to say, and they really don't have power. They really don't. Many of them don't really have power. They make somebody believe that they are someone who can do more for their
Yeah.
future than they
Yeah.
really can,
Usually
and
keep
it's
score.
really about manipulation.
Yep.
And so, but unfortunately sometimes we there are people, and I won't say I, and I hope that I've never done anything to hurt somebody or put in a put myself in a position where I have made somebody else seem bigger than they were. And someone said, I want to do this to advance my career. And I hope I've never said, oh, go ahead and do never something like that. But so and so is harmless. I hope that I've never misrepresented somebody. I can say that I've never found out that somebody that I know personally has manipulated somebody else. I hope I've never done anything like that.
Okay.
But it's part of the culture sometimes within a certain environment, a certain group of people, that they promote someone or promote an action as being harmless.
And to the abusers, and that cycle of abuse, I read somewhere that that people are the abusers or the traumatized are stuck in that age that they were trauma that they experienced the trauma. So if R. Kelly experienced this trauma as a 10, 11-year-old, then he's existing, even though however old he is still existing in his mind as like a 10-year or 11-year-old.
Wow.
And so the people that he's traumatizing and are kind of stuck wherever they are emotionally at that age.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that phrase, hurt people.
Hurt people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. So look, everyone, not sure if you can see it on the actual webpage for Keep It Real Conversations, but if you want to send in a comment, you can do that, or you can call the number 410-513-9499. Be happy to take some phone calls. You see it scrolling there at the bottom. I do see a few people on my personal page. But call in if you like, and you can ask James and Sharon some questions if you like, or just make a comment about anything that we're saying. So let me just take it a little bit over to the right a little bit here. And knowing that you both are Christians, and you got to be real careful. First, you brought up Marvel, and you know that we can go on a Marvel tangent. That could be a whole nother show, because
bring us back for that one.
Yeah, we can go off on a whole nother tangent on that. But knowing that you guys are Christians, well, let me say this. It seems that so many, especially when it comes to singers, you hear about them coming up in the church. They grew up as believers and things like that. What do you think is the biggest issue? And James, you kind of pointed to this a little bit earlier, but what is the biggest thing within that culture that you think sways people from those Christian beliefs, those moral attitudes towards certain things? Because we've seen it happen time and time again. I was thinking last night, I was thinking about Whitney Houston, growing up in the church, great voice, Aretha Franklin, all those people, but as they escalated in their fame, if you will, their moral compass seemed to get off tilted. Do you think that's just something that's inherent in man itself, or do you think it's something about that culture? And like I said, James, you kind of hinted towards that, but do you think that's prevalent?
I don't think that it happens with everyone, and it may happen to a certain degree with many celebrities, but it's as you know, or you may not know, and the listeners may not know, when you are out in the ocean and you're in a boat, if you are trying to reach a certain destination and you are off by a millimeter of a degree, the ship will not reach the destination.
The intended port, yeah.
And you will wind up hundreds, if not thousands of miles off course. So and this is anything, again, it's not just the entertainment industry, but when you get in a certain situation and someone might say to you, if you want this raise, if you want this promotion, you may have to do this thing, whatever it is. And you know that it is not what you believe to be right. And it is not something that you believe that you would ever do. Whether it is taking more money, whether it is turning the other way, whatever that thing is, it doesn't mean that you will never veer back to get back on course. But once you make that 1 millimeter degree to the left or to the right, away from where you say you want to go, in order to get back, you have to make an effort to get back. Just as you made an effort and it took you off course, if you stay off course and you never make that course correction, that's what it is. That people may not understand that they have to make that course correction.
Yeah.
It's one decision after the next decision after the next decision that make those minor course adjustments away from the goal. And it really takes a strong individual, a strong relationship with God to believe that that if you follow His way, that He'll get you, where your desires are. But I'm going to bring this back to Marvel because I can.
Okay.
Neil McDonough, who played Dum Dum Dugan in Captain America: The First Avenger, he is a professed Christian, and he refuses roles where he has to be in bed, have a sex scene with any other female, because he didn't want his children to be confused by, like, that's not mommy. Why is daddy naked
Right.
with someone who's not mommy? So his career, he's a good actor, and the roles that he's taken, I mean, he could have had better roles, and I kept wondering why. But because of this, he is where he wants to be, because his
Right.
focus,
Right.
he's hooked up this way, and he knows that God will take care of him.
Right.
You're not going to have a lot of Christians who see the dollar signs, who see the glitz and the lights and the glamour and all that's surrounding that, and are tempted by all of that and say, I want it now, versus, trusting that God's going to give it to me in due time. So, to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take this role. I'm not going to sing that song. I'm not going to wear those clothes. I'm not going to do this. There's got to be another way. It takes a very strong individual. And many times, the two examples that you named are women. And women are over-sexualized in every industry. And so for women to say, no, I'm not going to do that, there's a man in place to say, yes, you are. Or if you don't, then this will happen, or this won't happen.
And along with that, it's the reason why it's important that minorities are included in the industry. And when I go minorities, I mean not just racially, but also ethnically and also spiritually. It is important that people wear their faith, on their sleeve. Let people know that, okay, you feel this way. Oh, maybe because, again, someone is saying, oh, go do this thing, it's not going to hurt you. But if that person were to speak up and say, I don't want to do this, and say, is there a better way? Maybe somebody of faith will step forward and say, you're right. Though this is an opportunity that might get you X, Y, and Z, I'm going to support your moral code. I'm going to support who you say you are. And for the rest of your career, I got your back. I don't know if it's an agent. I don't know if it's a manager. I don't know who that person is, but there's somebody out there, I believe, that if you say, this is who I am to my core, that person will say, okay, I'm going to support you and make sure that you are always able to express who you are in every instance of your career.
And, I think that, one, I appreciate you telling me about that, that actor, Sharon, because you're right. Anytime I've seen him in anything, I'm like, man, he's a great actor, but you don't see him in a whole lot of things. And now I understand why. But to follow along with what James is saying, really, to get them to a state, I mean, yes, those other key players, agents, things like that, producers, directors, yeah, it'd be great if they get supported from them. But really, when we hear stories like that, the public needs to lift them up as well and say, I want to see more of this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see more of him because he believes this. All right. And I'm sure I may not agree with everything he believes, but at least I know this one thing. You know what I mean? I know that he's on course with this particular thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I want to support that's in his life, because I say it all the time. There's no way you're going to ever find anybody you agree with 100% of the time in all their issues. It's no way. But I think we are the ones that make celebrity. You know what I mean? And I think the public would needs to hear more stories like that, because now that just makes me want to go and find more movies that he's done and watch them. You know what I mean? Because I always thought he was a great actor. It's like, how come I don't see him more? How come I don't see him in more things? But now I understand why. And he decided to stay the course. And just going back to that for a second, it's like it doesn't take much for you to fall or to go off course.
Right.
It doesn't take much for you to just make that slight turn. And I think nowadays we have this attitude, oh, if that's a no harm decision. Well, like you said, Sharon, one decision will lead to another decision, and then it'll lead to another decision, and then it'll lead to another decision. And next thing you know, like you said, you're 1,000 degrees off from your intended port. You know what I mean? And we often believe once we start to go veer off too far, we often think that, well, it's too late. I can't get back on course. And that's not true. People often think, well, if I made a mistake, I might as well just keep on going and live that way. Well, no, God always says, my grace is sufficient. You can always turn back to me. I'm always there. I'm always with you. All you got to do is ask for forgiveness and I'll forget about it and we'll move on. You repent, you move on, you correct your course, and I'll get you right back to where you need to go. It's all about just making that decision.
And it is important that we all always pray and ask God, okay, what's going on? Don't just ask him which way to go. Ask him what's going on. Ask him for discernment, and he will speak to you. God is always. I know there was a sermon recently where they were saying that God doesn't always shake you up and try to snap you out of a bad decision or a bad situation. That God is much more subtle. Every now and then, God has smacked me upside my head and went, "Hey, I'm talking to you."
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I know specific instances in my life where God has shaken me up and let me know that he had a plan for my life and he was about to change things in a dramatic way. And I didn't always agree with that dramatic way, but he let me know that he was doing it, and that helped. But sometimes, as was preached, God is much more subtle. So it's important that we turn to him and we keep our face, keep our spirit, keep our eyes towards him so that we can see, hear, experience that message that he has for us. And so, yes, you might veer off course, but if at some point, just to check yourself, a performer, an actor, a dancer, a director, a producer says, is this the right way to go? Am I where you want me to go, Father? And I think sometimes, again, getting into that power mode, you get so self-caught up. You think that you're all this. You see your name on Entertainment Tonight, and you think that you're the cat's pajamas or whatever those phrases. That you're all that plus a bag of chips. And really, God is like, well, you are, but you're there because of me.
Right.
And you don't do that check and balance with God. Who knows what your next experience is going to be. So it's important that every celebrity, every person, I'm going to call them artists. Every artist checks in with God as often as possible. And sometimes, and I'm not going to say it, sometimes, always, he's going to course correct you. And the sooner you check in with him, you won't have as far to go to get back to center.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. We're coming up on the end here. I do appreciate y'all. I always when I start thinking about questions, I always try to find a biblical answer, and I don't want anybody to think how this started off that I'm trying to judge different ones like Bill Cosby or R. Kelly, but we can't deny how we feel and how we observe things sometimes.
Right.
Um, so there's one scripture that, well, actually two scriptures I want to share real quick, um, from a biblical standpoint before I let you guys go. And it's First Samuel 16:7. And it says, "But the Lord said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him." And what's happening here, this is when God is now getting ready to choose David to be the new king, the next king. And, everybody was looking at all these important people, the favorites, if you will, the celebrities of the day in that area. Um, but God is saying, don't look at them. Okay. He was saying, don't look at them for that reason, because really, the next scripture really talks about how God doesn't look at the outward appearance; He really looks at the heart,
Mhm.
and that's what we have to be concerned with. And for us, the commoners, okay, the non-celebrity, okay, um, we can never get the idea or the thought that we can see other people's heart. We can't ever think that we understand and know someone's motive or why they did it. Um, so we just have to make sure we keep that in mind. Um, we talked a little bit about R. Kelly and how he may have been abused and all those things, and things may have happened in Cosby's life, things may have happened in OJ's life, things could have happened in Martha Stewart's life. I don't know. We don't know that when they made their decisions, or anybody has made the decision, celebrity or not, what motivated them to make that decision. So we have to be careful of that. Not only that, in Luke 6:37, and I'm sure you've seen this before, it says, "Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." And we have to always, and I often use the scripture, I think it's in Matthew, um, you know uh, how are you going to judge someone's speck in their eye when you have this huge plank in your own eye? And so again, we have to be careful. It's not that you have to ignore things that happen. You need to be aware, but at the same time, you don't have the right to judge people for what they do or why they do it. You don't know what brought them to that point. You don't understand what was involved again with their decision. The best thing for us being Christians, for those of you that are Christians that are listening, um, is for us to pray for them and to help that they get that course correction in a quicker way, um, than what they may feel or even realize that they need to get at the moment. So, uh, any final thoughts before I let you guys go? Hey, Pastor Tao, man, I'm so happy to see you on, Pastor Tao. Um, any final thoughts before I let you guys go? You get a jury's minute.
Yes, I like those scriptures, and of course, I like the one that you just said. My sister says I use the one about, how can you see how to take the speck out of out of somebody else's eye when all the time you have that great plank in your own. And she says I use that way too much,
Hmm.
uh, but it is one of my favorites, and it
Yeah,
is that you have to look at yourself often, when you're looking at what happens around you and looking at other people's lives. But that doesn't mean that you can't be uh, a blessing to somebody, even while you're trying to fix your life. You can still serve, you can still assist, and you can be a blessing to somebody's life, especially when they're trying to find answers. And if at the very least, you can pray with them.
absolutely, absolutely. Even when you're going through your own stuff, and I think sometimes that's what another trick of the enemy is. You got your own stuff going on. How are you going to pray for somebody else? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's like he says we're not qualified, but you're qualified all
yeah,
the time, even when you're still working through your own stuff. As long as you got that relationship with God, you know, you are qualified to pray because He still hears you. You're still His child,
yeah.
and He loves when we show our love for one another by way of prayer.
Yes.
It shows that we care. It shows that we're putting someone else before our own needs. And ultimately, that's what he wants us to do. He wants us to think about others before we think about ourselves. Because
Yeah.
when we only think about ourselves, that's nothing but pride. And pride destroys.
Yes.
Anything, Miss Sharon?
Um, just I would say, just be careful what you put, what you allow into your spirit. Um, if it doesn't sit right with you, then that's God telling you, maybe just step away from that, step back from that, and also, leave your heart open to be forgiving, to show grace towards others. Try and understand, the saying, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes for a minute. You
Hmm.
don't know
Hmm.
where they've come from. You don't know where they're going. You're only walking in on them where they are this chapter, with this page in the chapter of their life. And, make yourself available, like as a prayer partner, as a someone to listen, not necessarily to give advice, but maybe they just need somebody to talk to, and then you can send a prayer for them up.
And artists are just human beings.
Human
Yep.
being.
We're, don't put people up on pedestals, whether it's an athlete, an artist. We use the word celebrity, and that kind of encompasses all of them. But as an artist, I'm just a human being, and I have my faults, but I've got my God. So,
Amen. Amen. Same thing with pastors and preachers. People do that with them as well. We just got to be careful. Amen.
yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate y'all coming on. Like I said, I consider y'all be my friends. Um, we got more in common especially with Marvel and sci-fi and stuff like that, Star Wars and the like.
We
I,
got to go break some bread together soon. Then,
yeah, I would love to do that. I really would love to do that. I always tell people one thing that I like to tell people is I was present, and I feel like this is an honor because not everybody gets to do this or get to be able to claim this. But I was present when the first look of interest took place. And that's an honor when you see love sparked, you know. Um, and you don't always get to see that nowadays, So I claim that. I claim that.
You can
Uh,
have that.
yes.
okay. And
And
I'm proud to
Bubbles,
say that I got to
with
see
some
that
of
first look. I see. I guess she's saying we've been talking, or he's been saying we've been talking too long. He's like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
It's time to
I'm a
wait.
cat. Feed
on?
me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thank y'all so much. Glad you was able to stay and talk for the whole time. So again, everyone, thank you all for tuning in again. I am going to rebroadcast this because I didn't really see many numbers. That doesn't mean it didn't go out, but I'm definitely going to rebroadcast this once Facebook gets itself together within the next day or so. Somebody just gave us a lot of love and hearts online. So
We love you too.
uh, really do appreciate y'all coming. Listen, I say it every week. Know that I love you, but God loves you more. He proved it by giving us His Son. His Son proved His love for us by taking on the sin and the penalty that He did not deserve, but He did it for you because it was a crime or a penalty or a debt that you could not pay yourself. And He proved His love by taking that on Himself. And He was completely innocent.
Oh,
Um, so uh, He did that, died, went to the grave, and got back up on the third day, just as He promised He would. And if you don't understand or hear any of that or don't know what it means, please feel free to reach out either by leaving a message on the page or giving a call on the number that I have flashing at the bottom. Leave a message. I'll get back to you because, as always, that is the most important conversation you can ever have in life is about what Christ did for you and your salvation. So again, I appreciate y'all. Love y'all. See y'all again next
all
Monday.
right.
Hopefully tech free and be safe. Wear a jacket when you're supposed to wear a jacket. if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated.
Oh yeah.
Actually, today I went and got my flu shot as well. So I'm Superman right now. I'm good. Can't nothing penetrate me. I got a force field all around me.
All
Um,
right.
but y'all make sure y'all take care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.
All righty. Take
All right.
care.
Thank y'all again.
All right.